Y'all want to watch a movie that made a bunch of white males angry? It's called The Woman King. In a Mahi village, a bunch of raiders are chilling by the campfire after taking Dahomey captives to sell to European slavers. They no longer part of Dahomeys. They hear a noise and turn to look. The Dahomey General Nanisca rises from the bushes, and she's not alone. An army of Agojie warriors pop out of the foliage. The women mop the floor with the Mahi raiders and crash into the village. Nanisca tackles a guy and demands answers. He plays innocent, acting all demure and cutesy. But Amenza throws up a curtain, revealing a bunch of terrified captives, and the farmer's throat is slit. The next morning, the warriors cover their fallen sister and tie up the Mahi captives. Nanisca finds a horseshoe and realizes the Mahi are in league with their arch-nemesis, the Oyo Empire. Agojie informs Nanisca that the prisoners are ready to march. She eyes their dead comrade and tells Agojie their roster needs serious upgrades. Back in the Kingdom of Dahomey, horns announce the return of the Agojie. The rescued women reunite with their families. Then as the warriors march in, everyone bows their heads. They're forbidden to look directly at the Agojie, but a plucky girl Nawi sneaks a glance anyway. Nawi returns home, and her siblings are hype. A suitor is waiting. Her friend says he might be handsome. Spoiler, he's not. And he's old and big-backed. He owns 3 palm fields and casually announces Nawi will be laboring in them. She says nothing, so he slaps her to help the words come out. He grabs her arm, and she shoves his big backery down. Her dad doesn't love this development, so he hauls her to the palace and donates her to the king. Agojie takes her inside, and she gets her first glimpse of this new life. A life without fugly, disappointing men sounds amazing to her. Elsewhere, Oyo soldiers show up at the Mahi village. They find the dead Agojie and plot revenge. Meanwhile, King Geso walks in a hallway, and his wife talks to the alopecious man, annoyed that her husband just loves Nansika. King Geso meets the council. Nanisca tells him to ditch the slave trade and invest in something less cursed, like palm oil and gold. His wife Shante rolls her eyes and says to continue enslaving black people. The rest of the council agrees with her, but Geso tells Nanisca to prove her palm oil dreams aren't fantasy, and he'll consider it. Training kicks off. Nawi's got a lot of heart, but 0 skills. But at least Nawi and Agojie hit it off and form a bond. During a demonstration, the training dummies' heads explode. Nanisca demands to know who the resident prankster is. Of course, it's Nawi. Nanisca asks how she did it, and Nawi explains that you don't need guns to use gunpowder, just a spark. Nanisca takes a mental note and then proceeds to give her a scolding. Nawi talks back and nearly gets expelled for having too much pride. After some time, an Oyo delegation rolls in to collect tribute, led by General Oba Adi. Nanisca recognizes his ugly ass as the man who abused her in the past. Oba complains that Dahomey is slacking on tribute payments. The Foin Geso claps back. Maybe stop raiding our villages. Oba responds by demanding 40 Agojie warriors. The Oyo recently seized the all-important port of Weda and threatened to gatekeep it. So Geso caves and they agree on 20 Agojie warriors to be delivered. Nanisca handpicks them. Nawi is among the chosen. Nansika excuses herself as she's reliving her trauma all over again. At the port, slave ship captain Santo Ferreira and his sidekick Malik come ashore. They wander into town and see cages, chains, and human misery. Then Nanisca shows up with the 20 Agojie and announces they bring tribute from King Geso. Oba mocks them in front of the European onlookers and says Dahomey have to send women because their male soldiers must all be off doing their nails. But the Oyo will put the women to better use. Nanisca says not so fast. The soldiers are not the tribute. Then she flips a basket revealing the real gift. Oyo heads, fresh and organic. The Agojie run off, but Nanisca stays behind, clearly in a mood. Nawi drops the gate to cut off incoming soldiers. Nanisca and Oba duel until Nawi snaps her out of her revenge trance. They take off together, run straight off a cliff, and swim to safety. But instead of gratitude, Nanisca chews Nawi out for going rogue, and Amenza and Agojie exchange glances. Afterwards, Amenza reminds Nanisca that she also went rogue, but Nanisca says that was her plan all along, to take his head. The next day, Nanisca takes King Geso on a tour of a palm field. He's impressed. Apparently, you can build an economy without human trafficking. But since war is already underway, they'll just go ahead and conquer the Oyo anyway. Back at Weda, Oba schmoozes with Ferreira and other Europeans. He promises they'll attack Dahomey soon, and there'll be plenty more slaves to sell. Malik listens and realizes this trip may not be morally enriching. Ferreira tells him if he wants to see Dahomey, they should go now before it gets flattened. Somewhere by a waterfall, Nawi is sharpening her sword when she hears a sound. It's Foin Malik, fresh out of a swim in his birthday suit. She holds his clothes hostage and suggests he hike back to Weda, butt naked like the cargo he profits from. But Malik insists he's not a slaver, and Nawi is surprised he can understand her. He reveals his mom was a Dahomey who was captured. She talked about the place so much, he had to come see for himself. Nawi girl, "You better go grab your mans." She returns the clothes. Then Ferreira calls out, and she makes herself scarce before he arrives. Soon enough, Ferreira and Malik are presenting themselves to King Gezo. Malik uses the "my mother's dying wish" card to great effect. Gezo welcomes him and tells him he's just in time for the Agojie finals. The girls begin their obstacle course from hell. First up, running through a thorn brush. Nawi gets through it, but heroically goes back for a stuck friend. It costs her time, but she kicks it into high gear and still crosses the finish line first. Gezo rewards her with a sword. Later, Agojie patches up Nawi. Nanisca walks in and flashes her own battle scars for inspiration. But when she sees one of Nawi's old scars, things get weird. Nawi says it was already there when her dad adopted her from an orphanage, and Nanisca leaves. Amenza follows and Nanisca demands answers about the baby, the one she gave up after being abused and escaping captivity. Amenza says she handed it to some missionaries. Nansika thinks Nawi is her daughter. Nanisca scoffs and pretends it's totally ridiculous. Meanwhile, Ferreira confronts Gezo about him quitting the slave business to go full palm oil merchant. Ferreira tries to convince him there'd be too much fallout, but doesn't get through to him. Later that night, Nawi sneaks off to meet Malik for another rendezvous. She tells him that he's better than the company he keeps. As if to prove her point, he drops intel. Oyo and friends are marching on Dahomey. They exchange parting gifts. He gets a trinket and she takes his knife. I would have let him stab me with his other knife. She runs straight to Nanisca and tattles. Nanisca goes off on her again and tells her that her arrogance and stupidity could get her captured someday. Nawi claps back. She's not Nanisca and won't end up captured. Damn, Nanisca decides it's time for a big reveal. She admits she was captured and that she was abused and was pregnant when she escaped. Agojie are virgin warriors, and no one would buy an immaculate conception story, so she had to give up the baby. But before she did, she put an Apple AirTag in it or a shark tooth. Then the moment of truth. She cuts open Nawi's old scar. Nawi fishes around and pulls out a shark tooth. She runs off in shock. The next day, Nanisca channels her trauma into genius. Inspired by Nawi's prank, she cooks up a plan involving buried jars of gunpowder disguised as anthills. Before going into battle, the Agojie dance it out and get a pep talk from Nanisca. Then they march. As they near the Oyo camp, Nanisca lights the hidden bombs and they make an explosive entrance. Fight time. The blindsided Oyo get wrecked and retreat, but they still manage to snatch some Agojie. After the battle, Amenza tells Nanisca that Nawi is missing. Back at Port Weda, Oba is busy planning his escape from consequence. Returning home would mean facing the music, so he tells his guide they need to go abroad. They decide to auction off Agojie since bids are higher for warriors. Nawi sees Agojie in the barracoon. She's not doing great. Arms broken, morale is worse. Agojie brings up Nanisca's last resort plan to self-delete if captured, but Nawi says not today. She guilt-trips her back into fight mode and even snaps her bone back in place. Back home, Nanisca is summoned to a council meeting. Gezo announces that he's decided it's time to crown a woman king. Requirements: beloved by the people, inspiring, visionary, the usual job interview fluff. Obviously, he picks Nanisca. Obvious to everyone except Shante, that is. I don't like the character, but Shante is fine as hell. Gezo declares it's time to party, but Nanisca reminds him they have people dead or captured, so maybe not just yet. Gezo says they sacrificed a few for the many. When she pushes to rescue the captured Agojie, he gets cranky and tells her to take the title and zip it. Next day, some Agojie get scrubbed down and lined up. Agojie hides her injury. She and Nawi have a plan: get sold, disarm guards, and bolt for the sea like old times. But Malik suddenly shows up, acting like a little drama queen. The Agojie seize the moment and make a break for it, but Nawi gets caught. Agojie turns back like a hero, but gets shot. Nawi breaks free and runs over to Agojie and ugly cries all over her. Oba's still got that ticket on his mind and offers to sell Nawi to Malik for 100 rees. Malik takes the offer and brings Nawi to a hotel room where he plays nurse while feeling like a knight in shining armor. That night, Nanisca decides she's had enough of Gezo's no-rescue policy and sets off solo for Port Weda. By morning, some loyalists catch up and suddenly her odds don't look that bad. Meanwhile, at the palace, Shante rats out Nanisca. She tells Gezo to keep the celebration going so he doesn't look soft. Oh, and maybe crown someone else while he's at it. Nanisca and squad arrive at Weda and take out the guards. They learn that Agojie is dead and Nawi has been taken. That's it. Nanisca tells Amenza no prisoners. Burn it all down. However, Nawi is with a shirtless foreign Malik. They part ways, but those abs would have had me in a chokehold. The Agojie and Dahomey soldiers go full apocalypse mode on the town. On the beach, Ferreira panics like a rat on a sinking ship, stuffing slaves onto a boat. But Malik finally realizes he's melanated and sets them free. Standing ovation. Then they make sure Ferreira gets exactly what karma had in stock for him. Nanisca finds Oba again, and it's round 2. She slices his ear bling off for dramatic effect before ending him permanently. But a soldier cocks a rifle behind her. Luckily, Nawi's there to save Mommy once again. More soldiers show up and she mows through them like it's just training. No scolding this time. Nanisca's a proud parent. She calls for the Agojie and they march out. Malik and Nawi share a look from afar that screams, "It's complicated." Back home, the palace is mid-party. Shantae's moment has arrived. She's about to be crowned Woman King. Suddenly, cheers erupt and everyone's chanting Nanisca's name. She walks in like a legend, hands Gezo Oba's sword. Gezo takes the sword and delivers a moving speech. Then he declares Nanisca the Woman King. Later, mother and daughter have a heart-to-heart. Nawi apologizes because the blood in her comes from a killer who caused Nanisca pain. Nanisca apologizes too, for leaving her. She reassures her that none of it was Nawi's fault. Then Nawi just walks away. Nanisca cries, then remembers she's the Woman King. She wipes her tears and dresses the part. Later, Nawi approaches and for the first time, she calls her mother and asks her to dance. And just like that, they're moving with the rest of the Agojie. Then they watch those slave ships sail away. This was a great movie. People will criticize the Dahomey for actually being part of the slave trade, but it was eventually dismantled. People like to forget that a lot of the atrocities would not have happened if Europeans didn't meddle so much. This was a movie that celebrated Black women. What did you guys think of this one?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.